What's up, everybody? Today is the first part of a two-part series that's about the most important question you can ask. And I don't really know if it's the most important, but it ranks right up there. And if you ask yourself this question, I'm willing to guarantee it will change your life. Not only can it change your life, I don't see how it can't change your life. So here is the question, and it's a two-part follow up on this, and there's other really important questions, but let's take this one today and grab a hold of it. And here's the question: what could happen if? What could happen if? And so today we're going to focus on the negative part of this. What could happen if all the things that are not the way they're meant to be in me? What if all the things in me that are not good? What if the selfishness, the pride, the addiction that's beginning to bubble up, the depression, the things that just aren't aligned, the things that aren't fully awake in me, the things that aren't the way they're meant to be in me, what could happen if they were turned loose and they went as far as they could go and they changed me as much as they could change me? How bad could my life be? And then you can put a time limit on it, and you could, let's say, 3 years. So here's what you do. Let's think of one thing in your life that's not inside of you. One attitude, one addiction, one problem, one thing inside of you, one thing that is not like it's meant to be. And then think, if it's not addressed, if it doesn't get any better, if you never work on it, if you never improve it, if you never tell anybody about it, if you never ask for help with it, if you never ask God to help you with it, or maybe you don't take it seriously when you do, and you don't take seriously what He leads you to do, if it was unaddressed and if it was left to run rampant in your life, what could happen if that was let loose? Where could you be? Worst case scenario, if that one thing, now if you're brave enough to think of that one thing, where could you be in 3 years, worst case scenario, if that was allowed to take over in your life, and if that was allowed to take you to the dark places that you don't want to go? And you've got to be honest enough to admit that you are capable of doing more harm than you want to acknowledge. Now, if you ask that question, it's really scary if you take time to think about it, because you're going to realize that you could end up in a worse place in 3 years than you've ever thought possible. So those of you that, let's say, struggle with porn, if that was just unleashed and you quit fighting that and you just let that go, what's the worst possible place it could take you? And you're going to start to think things like this. Well, it could lead to adultery. Well, it could lead to me wanting more new things, to maybe the point that, now maybe not today, but within 3 years. You know how sin takes hold. Sin will always take you further than you want to go, and it will cost you more than you want to pay. And so maybe not today, but you can't imagine this, but once it gets a hold of you, maybe it would take you to the place you want stuff new until it would take you to looking at child pornography. And so maybe it would take you to a place you commit adultery, and you lose your marriage, and you lose your family, and then maybe you get found out for the child pornography, and then you, a good person, but you struggle with this area, if it was let loose in your life, and if it was unaddressed in your life, could lead you to a place where you lose your family, and you even lose your freedom because you end up in jail because of what you looked at on your computer. Now, don't think that you're too good for that to happen to. Don't think that, because the people that end up doing these things, well, they at some point were like you, but something went unchecked in their life and it went too far. And some of you have stories that are like this. I just want to challenge you today, encourage you today to ask this unbelievably powerful question. And this is part one of it, is what could happen if the things that aren't right in my life were allowed free reign to take me wherever they wanted to take me? Where could I end up in 3 years? And be honest with yourself. And here's why it's such a great question. If you'll look into the face of the worst possible version of you 3 years from now, I'm convinced you'll become motivated to make sure that never happens. And when you look at where it could lead you to losing your family, to losing your career, to losing your financial stability, to losing like your spiritual health, to maybe suicide. I mean, you can picture the places it could go in 3 years. I'm convinced that if you're willing to go there and say, what could happen if, that it will motivate you to address it right now, to make sure it doesn't go there, to make sure that sin, to make sure that brokenness doesn't pick up momentum in your life, because as it picks up momentum in your life, it's harder and harder to stop. So it's much easier to address it today. And so I challenge you to ask, what could happen if I left that thing unchecked in my life and I let that sin and that brokenness take me wherever it wanted to take me? What's the worst possible scenario 3 years from now? And if you ask that question, I promise it will change your life. All right, guys, next time we'll be back with the second part of this question. Be a little more positive, but I'm telling you, it's life-changing if you're willing to ask it and be honest with yourself. Have a good one.